13 details in the Avengers Endgame big game spot you may have missed. The big game was this weekend, and while most folks found the game itself to be one big snooze fest, the commercials did a pretty good job of keeping us awake and entertained. In addition to the standard fare of car spots and beer ads, we also got our fill of trailers, including new ones for Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame. While both were only a quick 30 seconds long, the Endgame hit was filled with tons of details. And since we're not likely to get much more from Avengers between now and April, we're breaking down 13 details you may have missed in that Super spot. Oh, we can't say Super Oops. Right off the bat, we got a montage of Marvel characters, but not just any characters. This quick slideshow was full of those dusted or killed by Thanos: the Wasp, Nick Fury, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange, Falcon, Scarlet Witch, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Black Panther, Winter Soldier, and Vision. In fact, the only living soul in that slideshow is Rocket Raccoon, but that's only because the rest of his team succumbed to Thanos' snap and the OG Groot, who died saving the team. Next, we see the Marvel Studios 10-year anniversary logo turning to dust, perhaps signifying the end of that era. We are in year 11 after all. In the first real shot, we have an aerial view of New York City showing that the city that never sleeps is taking a nap, with most of the lights out. Next, we see the Statue of Liberty surrounded by tons of boats. Clearly, lots of people have flocked to the much less crowded city, which appears to have become a port in the storm for the rest of the world, or at least the tri-state area. Then we cut to the Mets' home stadium, Citi Field, where we can see their parking lots are filled with sloppily parked cars, even though the stadium itself looks empty. The sloppily parked cars were possibly due to people either leaving or arriving at the stadium for a game when the snap happened, or perhaps survivors have flocked there. Next, we see a support group with a poster in the foreground that reads, "Where do we go now that they're gone?" We're obviously getting some major The Leftovers vibes here, with people dealing with the sudden loss of half the world's population. This shot also answers the question that the previous shots only hinted at. Yep, there will be a time jump from the end of Infinity War to the beginning of Endgame, as printing up posters and coming up with calming slogans takes time, people. The support group appears to take place in a Veterans Affairs Hall, which, if so, is a nice little nod to Sam Wilson, who ran a VA support group back in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Speaking of Cap, we have Steve Rogers in attendance at this support group. Understandably, Cap is looking pretty angsty, no doubt wrestling with losing so many people in one fell snap. We also get the beginning of him narrating the shot saying, "Some people move on, but not us."
Not us.
Chills. I got chills. Cap's my dude. Next, we see Iron Man and Nebula hard at work in the Guardians' second ship, the Benatar, named after Pat Benatar. This is definitely drawing some visual comparisons to the first Iron Man film, where Tony Stark builds his first Iron Man suit out of a box of scraps in a cave.
With a box of scraps!
Now, you would think that if he could work tech miracles in an underground desert bunker back in the first Iron Man film, he could probably come up with something while drifting through space in a high-tech spaceship. However, as last we saw Tony in the previous trailer, he was recording one last message to Pepper Potts before losing the last of his life support. It's unclear whether he suddenly got a jolt of inspiration after that message, or if this workshop scene takes place earlier. But we have previously theorized in the last trailer that Tony would be saved by Pepper in her rescue armor, which would be a nice way to pay off how the last thing he said that he would see is her face as he drifts off. And we think this theory still holds. Next, we get the shot that has got the internet hot. We see Cap, Widow, Bruce, and Rhodey as something or someone appears to be coming in fast, many suspecting Tony or Captain Marvel. But what's got the internet in an uproar is the large gap in the lineup here. It feels like someone is in the shot but has been painted out for spoilers, a la Spider-Man and the Civil War trailers. But the question is who or whom? I don't know, which is appropriate.
Whomever is never actually right.
After that, we have Rocket entering what could be a cabin or a lodge by the sea, based on the lobster or fish trap on the rocky shore behind him. Now, this is all speculation, but based on this setting, we're thinking Thor has taken off post-snap, holding himself up in some Scandinavian country to live alone. He probably feels guilt over knowing he could have just aimed for the head and killed Thanos, but instead, he went for the pain and let the snap happen. And now his Infinity War buddy, Rocket, has come to try and get him back in the game. Then we have Black Widow staying sharp with her gun skills. Notice that her blonde bob is growing out. Once again, we're getting hair-length clues that a fair amount of time has passed since the snapping. Next, we get Ant-Man and War Machine suited up and ready for a fight. It's strange that they're in an office, though. Are they just practicing for a big showdown, or does the boss fight happen around the water cooler? Then we see our first shot of Thor looking pretty down, which feeds into our earlier theory about his depression. And he is still using that replacement eye gifted to him by Rocket. Hopefully he's washed it by now, though. The next shot is Thor brandishing his axe, Stormbreaker, and is back in his red cape. This time, we can see where he is, except we're not exactly sure of the location. It definitely looks like it could be an alien world, but then also it looks similar to some of the interior design we've seen in Wakanda. Next up is a noticeably not Ronin, but Hawkeye Renner, still with his trusty bow and arrow. We can't tell for sure, but we're wondering if he's standing on an alien world or spaceship of some sort. Finally, we get the moment all Cap fans have been waiting for. Cap has his shield back! His bruised, grimy hands here suggest this happens in the middle of some major fight that's going down. Or it could be a flashback. With all the time travel shenanigans we're pretty sure will happen in this flick, it's hard to tell what's a current timeline shot and what's happened in the past. Either way, it's been a long time since we've seen Cap with his shield, so color us happy. And lastly, the money shot of the remaining Avengers all walking in the Avengers hangar. From right to left, it looks like we've got Cap, Thor, Black Widow, Rocket, Ant-Man, War Machine, and Bruce Banner. It also appears that this is yet another shot that the internet is calling out as a trick. Check out that empty spot between Ant-Man and the last two heroes in that line. That looks like enough space for Marvel Studios to paint out another Avenger. But who could it be that they'd want to keep a secret here? Also, have you noticed the space next to me? We've painted out two people standing right here. So those are the 13 details we found in the Avengers Endgame Big Game spot. It's worth noting that we've already heard from Feige, the promo materials are only showing footage from the first 15 to 20 minutes of the movie. So we're likely to have lots of huge surprises in the actual film. Also, knowing Marvel's history of faking trailer shots that don't show up at all in the film, we're expecting at least some of these shots to be misleads. But what do you folks think? Did you like what you saw in this Big Game Endgame spot? Who are you hoping we'll see a lot of in Endgame? And are you able to wait until April for Avengers Endgame? Not us, not us. Let's discuss. Be sure to like, subscribe, and mash that little bell to get notified every time we drop a new video or go live with a show. And if this wasn't enough Avengers for you, check out the Nerdist News Edition where Doctor Strange's Benedict Wong stopped by the studio to give us a lowdown on just what Wong was up to in the Sanctum Sanctorum during Avengers Infinity War. You can check out Nerdist News Edition right here on Nerdist YouTubes.